Let's take a moment and say thank you to our sponsors at Fuji Sport.
Yeah, absolutely.
They've been working with us for a very long time, not only on this podcast, but also at the Academy. And I'm taking a peek at their website right now, and they have a brand new ultra light gi. Now, this is mind-blowing. I'm looking at my size. A2 is 2.75 pounds. I mean, that's under 3 pounds. That's mind-blowing.
I could even lift that. And go to their website, fujisports.com. Check it out. Anything you could need for your jiu-jitsu journey, you can find at fujisports.com.
Hey, it's been a while since we started RŌL TV project.
It's been a while since you started it. I did come in later, and I can't say enough about it, especially the new platform. It's really amazing, fully customizable, and you know a little bit more about the structure.
Well, so two things you need to know. One is the subscription service, which is $9 a month. You can get access to hundreds of videos, hundreds of drills, techniques, and so on in a very nice library categorized as you need them. But two, different lessons. You can actually purchase those individually and you own them. So the subscription is not tied to it at all. You can look at things like spider guard, half guard sweeps, half guard chokes, folding pass, and so on. There's so many of them out there. So take a look and see where you need help with the videos, right? 30% if you type in RŌL Radio as a code.
Who doesn't like saving money? Go to rolacademy.tv. On this, the last episode of 2022, we want to take a second to say thank you to all those who have supported the RŌL Radio over the past 2.5 years. Without your support, we wouldn't be here, so thank you. And be sure to join us for all new episodes beginning January 11th as we set out to bring you more conversations with some of the most influential, up-and-coming, and legends in the world of jiu-jitsu. As a kid, today's guest found a place to flourish in a local karate school. He then dedicated himself to martial arts and was a competitor on The Ultimate Fighter, as well as having a multi-fight career in the UFC. He then went on to become an entrepreneur, opening and running several successful martial arts academies in Colorado. On this episode of the RŌL Radio, Eliot Marshall shares his story of success and failure. He opens up about his internal struggles, how he overcame them, and how he is determined to help others reach their full potential. Here's the RŌL Radio with businessman, owner and instructor at Easton Training Center, entrepreneur, podcast host, and author, Eliot Marshall.
Welcome to RŌL Radio.
And we're live.
Yeah, here we go.
You're stuttering today. What's going on? Are you nervous?
No, I'm not nervous.
We've done like 150 of those.
I have nothing to be nervous about. We talked about this the other day. I have very low expectations.
Is that what it is?
Yes, and when you set the bar that low,
you succeed all the time.
Every time, I always come out on top.
Well,
I so agree with that philosophy, by the way.
It's a great way.
It's a great way to go through it.
It is,
man.
By the way, Eliot Marshall in the house. Eliot, how are you?
I'm great, guys. How are you?
Great to have you. Great to have you. So, okay, so let's dig into this. So expectations so low, almost non-existent. So every time you succeed, is that the recipe to success today?
Look, I'm actually very serious. Yeah. On a day-to-day basis, the expectation is not a lot.
Yeah.
Right. It's just, it's everyone's heard it. It's the idea of 1% better.
Oh yeah.
And I think this is where people really can get stuck sometimes in whatever walk of life they're trying to do is they want to be the best right now. And, the social media and all that stuff, it's not really helping because you get to actually see someone being the best. But like what you don't see is all of the work and the failure before. I mean, look, we just had the World Championships, no gi for jiu-jitsu, right? Mm-hmm. Over the weekend. Literally last year, we lost every match except for 2 people first round. I had one of my girls that I work extremely close with, literally walked out purple belt, right? So not blue belt. And she had already won blue belt worlds years ago, literally walked out and stuck her butt up in the air, her head down, her arm out, and got triangled in 3 matches in a row because she did her absolute 2. or maybe it was 2 matches in a row. And I was like, what the fuck?
Mm-hmm. And so how do you deal with that afterwards?
You figure out what you did as a coach poorly, right? And how I can coach this athlete better. And now this year she's a world champion.
Wonderful. So I'm guessing the coaching isn't the technique aspect of the coaching, right? I think the failure probably came somewhere else. She already won his blue belt.
So look, she's obviously doing some technique wrong, right? I haven't drilled that in enough. So like what it came down to was I had to give more time to athletes if that's what I wanted. If because I think what we saw was COVID stepped the game up in the level of athlete that does jiu-jitsu. Everyone is way better. Everyone. So you have to work more because everyone sat in their house, watched fucking videos all day. Nobody went to work. Nobody went to school, right? Everyone just like, oh, wow, I'm going to get really good at jiu-jitsu. So, and then the explosion of BJJ Fanatics at the same time. So more work needed to be done. So, but that's just not on the athlete's part. That's on the coach's part. So I had to watch more film. I had to study more. I had to create more competition practices. And now look, the 2 athletes that I work the most with, both gold medalists, both world champs.
But this is interesting philosophy that you're mentioning now, because many consider this COVID or last 2 years as a completely miserable time for jiu-jitsu. Many academies went out of business. A lot of people didn't train. So, I personally know people who quit jiu-jitsu and they never came back. And yet you're talking about that this was actually the pivotal point where jiu-jitsu level just went up. So what in the world? Which one is really true?
Both. The duality always exists.
Yep.
The duality always exists. There must be balance to the force. So they both exist. Some people did, and look, good for them too, because maybe they saw that they're spending too much time and they have a wife and a family or a husband and a family, whatever it is, and they needed to move their life in a different direction. Like, I have no problem with that. But on the other end, you guys tell me, you're watching the game. Like, you tell me, is it not way higher than what it was?
I know myself. I became more obsessed in the last 2 years in jiu-jitsu than I ever was before. Like, I spend more time analyzing data and analyzing, film and all the other things that I've ever done. And that's purely as a consequence of COVID because I was stuck. I had nothing else to do. I saw this guy for freaking 4 hours a day or 6 hours a day. I had sick of him. So
too much.
My schools, we have 7 schools. They are better. They are 100% better run, better everything as a result of COVID.
Yep. Yeah, we see the same thing here.
As a result of COVID made us better. We run the business better. There's nothing that's not better about us. Now, that doesn't mean COVID was good.
Correct.
I'm not trying to make this argument that COVID was good or that I even want to see anything like it again.
No, but I think what's important to acknowledge here is that the adjustments have been made based on the circumstances surrounding us, and we've managed to improve based on the negative circumstances that we find ourselves in. That's the bottom line. If you're not a coward.
What
do you mean by that? What do you mean by that?
We did no complaining about the government outwardly. We did no anything. We kept our mouths shut. We figured out how to work, and we figured out how to work with and around slightly, if we had to, the rules, so that we could stay open as much. Everyone closed the first 2 months, right? We're not talking about those first 2 months, right? So stay open, run the schools, provide a service for the students, and pay our employees. So. Because we have 150 of them. We have 150 employees at the time when COVID hit. And the only 2 people that made less money during COVID were me and Amal, my business partner. That was it. Everyone else made, now look, it wasn't just from us, right? Because the government provided assistance with all of this. You just had to do a whole fuck ton of work to figure out how to get that assistance. So no one in our company, just me and Amal. And we made hundreds of thousands less, the 2 of us. Everyone else broke even. if not made, I think a couple people made like $100 more.
Oh,
So, so, but that's a win, right? That's a massive win.
Well, yeah, and Thomas and I talked. I mean, this podcast came out of COVID, right? Thomas was looking for something to do,
No. I kept you busy.
Right. Yes. I was one of those people. I was one of those people that did not get paid less, but I had to do this in order to keep it going. But what we brought up often, and we in private here when talking to other people, is we knew a lot of people who turned the lights off, went home, that when they first got shut down, and did nothing but go on social media and complain. And then things got really bad for them. Where other people said, okay, what do we do? How do we keep our students engaged? It was instant Zoom classes. It was instant.
Look,
what are the rules?
Sorry.
What are the rules that we can play with to make sure that we can get people back in the door as soon as possible? And I lost exactly where I was going with this, but the opposite end of that was to do nothing and complain and bitch and moan, which I find is the antithesis of what jiu-jitsu is all about anyway, right? What martial arts is all about, what fighting is all about. And that coward word you used is pretty strong, but I never looked at it quite that way, but I definitely see why you would. And I
also will call a coward if you just ignored the rules and said, look, this isn't real in the beginning.
Sure.
Right? In the beginning, because nobody knew what the hell was going on.
Sure.
Right? Like you can't, whoever turned out to be right, that I'm not talking about it from that perspective, talking about it from March 2020 when like people were dropping dead, right? And you were like, yo, what's going on? Like, holy cow. And if you were just like, it's a sniffles and kept your doors open and just ignored everyone, I didn't like that either. I don't like that either.
Let me ask.
We didn't know. Yeah.
Let me ask you this. So why is it so easy to complain? And I'm completely sharing your train of thought here. Matter of fact, I love this quote. I say it often. Teddy Roosevelt said, complaining without providing a solution is simply whining. I mean, it has no value whatsoever in my mind. All you're doing is embracing the negative instead of figuring out how you're going to fix the problem, right? But why is it so easy for us as humans so naturally just start bitching and whining about things and bring everything that's negative instead of freaking stopping and starting fixing it?
Well, because that's how we start. We all start complaining. When you pop out, you cry because you're hungry. You're complaining.
Right? Never thought about it that way. Yeah.
You're complaining. So we start that way. And children, like, do you guys have kids?
Yeah.
Right. And your kids keep complaining. Right.
Oh, yeah.
And they don't stop. They're little. They still cry and whine, right? They're 2, they're 3. So the first 5 years of your existence, you complain and you get what you want.
Right. Or you
Constantly.
die, right? I mean, if you take it back long enough. Yeah.
So, so that's what happens.
So what you're saying is
that behavior. Go ahead.
So I was about to say, so what you're saying is Gary's a big baby.
Yes.
Sure. Absolutely. But I think, right. And it's your job as a parent, as a coach, as an instructor, anything else to train that out of you. Yes. Or out of your kids. Right.
Everyone wants to blame this generation for complaining so much. This younger generation, if we didn't teach them not to complain, and if we didn't actually give them what they want when they complained coming up, then we wouldn't be in this situation. Babies have been popping out of moms for hundreds of thousands of years. That's never changed. What's changed is how we're treating them once they come out. Now, I'm not saying there's not some really great things with time, but one of the things is we keep giving our kids what they want. We stopped forcing them to do things. And now complaining, you get a lot, right? Because you have the internet. And if you catch fire on the internet complaining, now you're famous.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. And we often don't point that finger at ourselves though, right? It's easier to point it at those people complaining.
It's easier to point at the people complaining. It's easier in the COVID situation to point it at the government.
Yeah.
Right. Look what they're doing to me. It's easier to always do it. Look, I used to do it for 35 years of my life. I think I did it. And,
so what changed? What changed with you?
I cracked. I fell apart, I fell apart as as a human. And I had to look at the whole history of my life and go about how I did my life differently, even though I was very successful at the time. You know, when I cracked and fell apart, I had already done everything that there was that I had done, you know?
Talk a little bit more about that. What do you mean by cracked and fell apart?
All right. So, I mean, we got to rewind a little. I was born, my dad's black, you know, and my mom is Jewish and the survivor of Holocaust. My grandparents were Holocaust survivors. So if I was born in 1980, so if you rewind the date of my dad grew up during civil rights, you know, couldn't go to the same water fountains and all that stuff. Right. So that was a very interesting experience. Well, you know, and I grew up in a very small town where it wasn't so kosher. And when we moved to this town, I was 8 years old. It's one of the first memories I have is us building, you know, multiple memories of a same episode, I would say, right? Like, you know, I remember little things when I was 5, but I was 8. And, you know, this is when I really started remembering things. You know, we're moving to the house. We drive up to our house one day, we're building it. And, you know, it's Niger's Go Home spray painted all over it and swastikas all over our house. And this was my existence. You know, I had no friends. I was not accepted anywhere except for my karate school. My karate school, I was accepted, but that I had to go all day at school first. And it sucked. It was terrible. You know, I just did Alberto Crane's podcast over the weekend. And I don't know what made me remember this. I guess I blocked it out. At one point, you know, I think it was middle school or something, the girls in the class were, you know, they were writing a note. You know how kids pass notes around, right? And the teacher found it. And what in the world made this teacher hang this note on the board is beyond me. It was, who is the ugliest person in our grade that you would never date? You see that note and you throw that away as a teacher, right? This bitch hung it on the fucking board for everyone to come in and see my name at the top. You know, like looking back on it, I'm like, what are you doing? Why would you do that to me?
That's insane.
Like, that doesn't affect the girls. Like, she was trying to say, look, you try to keep secrets, I'll publish it. Right. You know? You pass notes, everyone's good. Yeah, I get it. If it was nothing, I love Johnny. Oh, good for you. Who's the fattest, ugliest kid in the grade?
Right.
Let's spotlight that.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Appreciate you. But anyway, that was my life. That was my life growing up, as I was not accepted anywhere.
So why did the karate school was the outlet for you? Why was it a safe place?
I was good. I got good. And we all know at a martial arts school, the only factor seems to be whether you can come in and add to that community.
Right. I think that's what any athletic, right?
Yeah.
Endeavor is like that. If you're good, all that other stuff
goes away.
Right. They'll still bring it. Maybe it'll be brought up from time to time. But
the impact disappears.
Yeah. Within that community, within that small community. Now, if you could venture
what happens when you leave it? Yeah,
right.
for sure.
If you go to a tournament.
But even at that time, so you spend obviously several hours at school, which has this negative impact in your life, but then you're going to the martial arts facility and you spend there significantly less time, but yet I would imagine that has more value to your life than the negative that you're surrounded by, isn't it?
You know, when you're like, let me just get there.
Yeah.
Like, okay, let me just get to 4:00.
Yeah.
Right. If I could just get to 5:00 or 4:00 every day, that was then going to be okay. I could leave school and then it wasn't just go home, because if it was go home, then you have to go home and hide. Right. I got to go be someone in the world. And that was a massive thing, because we all want to be someone in the world. Right? Especially as a little kid. This is when you're dreaming, this is when your dreams either get crushed or they get made. So we all want to be someone in the world. And I got to go be someone in the world. So I attached very early to martial arts.
Would you say that this martial art journey, this experience, really carried you through your early life?
It's what has made me, and it is what is so important for me now. So in the running of and how and with our schools. So that place on the Black Horse Pike in Williamstown, New Jersey, and then later on a little up the road in Williamstown, really gave me a safe haven. You know, like when you talk, like, you know, and I know these are like, and I hate these words. It was my safe space, but it really was a safe space. Mm-hmm. You know, it's where a lot of pressure actually got put on me to be better. It wasn't like, you know, the safe space that we think of now where it's like, oh, yeah, nothing will happen to you here. No, a lot happened to me. I had to get better. It was forced. So, yeah, it was my safe spot.
Have you visited that spot later on in your life?
Man, I still talk to them. I still talk to them sometimes.
Are they still open?
Yeah, they're still open, you know, and actually the guy, you know, when we fast forward the story here, so fast forward to the summer in between my senior and junior year of high school. The national tournament for our karate style was in our area, and I did it. And my friend, he was competing. We all were competing. And you got to remember, karate's not like jiu-jitsu where you don't spar each other, like, because it's just point fighting, right? So if your teammate's in your bracket, who cares? He went to the old man bracket, the master's bracket. And I was like, you scared of me, blah, blah, blah. You know, I was punk 18-year-old, right? 17, I think, you know? And he's like, yeah. And this is 1997 now. He's like, yeah, you think I'm scared? Come to my house, you know? Come to my house next Friday night. And I'm like, cool, I'll come to your house. You know, I had no clue he was doing jiu-jitsu.
And that's where things began.
Right?
Yeah, right.
Who knew what jiu-jitsu was?
What year is this?
1997.
Oh, so this is way before UFC.
Way before.
Well, it's after UFC 93.
Oh, 97.
Yeah.
Okay,
97.
sorry. I thought you were saying 87. Okay.
No, 97.
Okay.
But still, jiu-jitsu was unknown still for the most part in America.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. It was just starting to get into my kung fu school at that time.
Right. He beat my ass. He tells a funny story about it because he beats my ass so bad. Like my chest is swollen to my neck. I am fucked up. I guess the next day he gets his phone call and it's from my dad. And he's like, oh shit, Mr. Marshall's not going to be happy here. You know? And my dad calls him and was like, good work.
Nice.
Good work. You know? So anyway, I'll get to this story is actually very important. But when you asked if I still talk to these guys, so he has a jiu-jitsu school and we have a business called Easton Online now. And he actually signed up for Easton Online after COVID so that we could help him, you know?
That's
so
wonderful.
yeah. So like I got to return the favor a little bit. But anyway, so that moment, touching jiu-jitsu for the first time, I then started to learn it. I go back to school my senior year of high school and I start talking about it. And these wrestlers hear me talking about it. And they challenge me to, you know, a grappling match, whoever gives up, no punching, right? Like, you know, old school Valley Tudo.
Yeah.
But, you know, and I beat these guys and they were state champs. They were very popular. And then all of a sudden, Eliot starts to get a friend. You know? A girl kisses me, you know, like I was like, oh my God, like it blew my mind, right? Blows my mind. And I'm like, man, I bet you if I can beat people up and fight, I'm going to be good. Now I got to rewind a touch in the sense of when I say good, my grandparents were convinced that Hitler was coming again. And I spent a lot of time with them, And they always what they always said is you need to have friends that will hide you from Hitler. And that's what I was told. And that's what I didn't have. I didn't have friends that would hide me from Hitler. So fighting became the route for me to have these friends.
Was it a twofold, like I can do it myself or it was just I need these friends?
If I beat people up and I become the UFC champion, people will like me. And then one of them I will have friends that will hide me from Hitler when Hitler comes again. So
And
this is a little, go ahead.
So how did that work out in the long?
Yeah, it worked out terribly.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't, and so now with my fighting, I wasn't fighting for fame and money and like chicks and accolades, right? Like, sure, I was fighting for all that, but I was fighting for a much more baseline level first. I was fighting to be safe in the world when Hitler came again to kill me and my family.
That's deep.
That's a little too much.
Yeah.
You know, that's a little too much.
How do you?
I didn't fight well.
How do you process this? Like, I'm trying to think about it. How do you even from a preparation perspective, or even being at the fight, how do you process this in your head?
I didn't well at all. You know, I had a lot of panic attacks and anxiety, and, you know, because if you lose, then you're not going to be safe from Hitler.
Right.
Right. So I fought in a way, and I used this word coward, and I used it right away. Right. I fought often like a coward, especially in the UFC, because I couldn't lose, you know, and I was fighting not to lose. And, you know, we can see the result of my fights.
So this is all building up to being 35, right? I mean,
being 35, get cut from the UFC, you know, have to move on right away. These schools are going well, but I still have this fear, you know, this fear of who I am in the world. What does it even mean to be me? And that fear comes to a head when I'm about 36 years old. Yeah, 2000, right before 36, March 2016. And go ahead.
So this is interesting because it's not about success.
I'm already successful.
I know. This is not about money.
I already have some.
This is not about achieving goals. This is purely about this safe line in your mind that if you don't have these people behind you, then... And
one more thing. And I didn't know who I was. I had no sense of Eliot because I had built up these protector shields of this bravado, you know, projecting this bravado that necessarily might not be true because I knew how scared I was underneath, right? Of all of, you know, of not dealing with any issues that I had from my past. So, and I was lying to the world about who I was. You know, and if somebody actually saw how much of a coward I was and how scared I was, then they would for sure come get me, right? I'd be the first one they would come get. So all of that combined, I cracked. I couldn't handle the pressure.
So we didn't know this was going to go in this direction. So yeah, I don't want to. No, we'll talk probably a little bit about why we're here and doing this.
Okay.
But you know, 36 comes along. I don't want to, you know, we don't need to know exactly what happened.
Oh, I'll tell you what happened. I'm great with it.
But okay, well then you can go there. Yeah. More importantly to me though, is I always want to know how you came out of it, what you did to get out of it, because I know what I did. I know who I was at 18, 19, 20, and who I became at 25 was a much different person. So I'm always interested to see the parallels there. And I think it's important for people who are going through anything to see once it happens, the route to take to make yourself better.
It looked like sleepless nights. It looked like up all night panicking, crying in my basement, up all night with my friends, talking on the phone so they could like lullaby me to fucking sleep some nights. And some nights they would stay up all night with me, unaware of how I was going to get from day to day, second to second. You know, that's what my anxiety and panic looked like. How did I get out of it? First of all, amazing friends in my life. I actually ended up having those friends that would save me and hide me from Hitler, if that was necessary, you know? So thank them. And I thank them to this day for saving my life. Also, therapy. I go to therapy every week. I'm actually missing her for this whole month, which is, I think, the longest we've gone since 2016, just because of some dates working out and then the holidays and some traveling. So therapy every week. in the moment when it was really, really intense, I had to take some sleeping pills and Xanax to get myself through, only at night, to try to get myself to at least calm down a little bit. And have you guys ever taken those drugs?
I haven't had to, no.
Okay. They're pretty heavy drugs.
Sure.
Right. This is my anxiety and my panic was so intense that I could take two prescription sleeping pills and Xanax and stay awake through that shit. That's how intense.
I got to ask you, how do you process all of this, and how do you come out of this? And you see on daily basis people who say, my life is hard. This is what I'm struggling with. Mm-hmm. Whatever. My job sucks. My life sucks. My family sucks. Like, we all find bitching and whining reasons. My training sucks. I got destroyed. All the other stuff.
Yeah.
What you are talking about is from a different galaxy. What you're describing is something that most don't experience.
Let me be clear. I had amazing parents as a child. So I never lacked love. Okay. So I know that all sounds, my childhood sounded very hard. I never lacked love. I had amazing parents. If I could be half of the parents that I had, then I'm the second best parent in the world behind mine. Okay. So let's just start with that. So okay. I had the number one thing you need as a child, which is two parents that love you. Okay. And still do to this day. So I don't want to, I don't want to pitch this ultra sad story like I was born into poverty in Africa with an AIDS-ridden mother, right? Because that's way harder than any, like that's not my story. I had amazing parents. I didn't need food. I didn't need shelter. I didn't need clothing, which I think are all baseline things that put me a level ahead of everyone. So now your question of how I dealt with it, I was so broken that the only way out was in. Like, I had to go all the way into all of my weaknesses. I like to say I did just, this was 2016 before all of the whining and crying started happening, or right as it started happening. So I don't like this term as much anymore, but I had to, what I like to say, scream my weakness to the world. So rather than go through the world trying to be portrayed as this very tough individual, because I fought in the UFC and I could fight and I could probably beat 99. Like if I couldn't beat you up, I knew you,
Yeah.
So, rather than put that foot forward, I put a different foot forward. I was like, look, yeah, sure, I'm this 250-pound dude that fought in the UFC and that is ultra successful, and I struggle. And this is what I struggle with. I cry. I do all of these things, So rather than put this bravado forward, I chose to put a different foot forward. So that way I didn't have to hide it. I didn't have to hide these weaknesses and these things that were inside of me, because when you hide them and cover them up, God forbid somebody exposes them. And this is, fighting tells you this. We all have weaknesses as a fighter. Every fighter has a weakness, right? And you try to cover up your weaknesses. But when eventually everyone gets exposed, unless they're smart like Khabib and get out, And I saw Khabib with a quote today about Islam that he's got to get out after like 6 title defenses because you can only stay on top for so long. And it's very true, So yeah, it's, it will get exposed eventually. So the hiding didn't work for me. It got exposed. I'm crying on my fucking couch and in the therapist's office and at night and on the phone with my friends. And so let's just flip it. Let's go the other way. Let's just say, hey, look, I'm kind of a coward. Like, and I use that word eventually on purpose because at baseline, guys, I'm a coward. I want to run and hide at baseline.
It takes a lot of balls to do what you're describing.
Why?
Well, I would say 99.9% people would not have done or chose the route that you are talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think
I chose the other route. It didn't work.
Right.
I get it. I understand.
I didn't either, man.
No,
I didn't choose this route either, but it didn't fucking work.
no dispute, but people would continue doing the things that don't work. I mean, you see this on a daily basis.
Yeah, but I think that at some point, you either yourself have a realization, or somebody has it for you and tells you, and then you have it. You know, they throw it in your face. This is who you are, and so for me, that's what happened to me. This is who you are. All right, why am I like this? All right, I had to figure that out, and that was that 20-year-old to 25-year-old. All right. And I think once you start exposing all that stuff and you start, spill your guts, so to speak, man, does it get easier? Every day gets easier because now you have the answers as to why I do the things that I do, why I am the way I am, why I treated other people the way I treated them, all that stuff. It just becomes so much easier to deal with once you put it out there. Anytime you're hiding anything, well, once it's out on the table, you can deal with it and life becomes easier.
Look, I like to say there's 3 things that have never lost. I can curse on this podcast, yeah?
You've been doing it
Too
all
late.
for
Too late
36
now.
Pussy's undefeated. It's never lost.
That's right.
Father Time is undefeated. It's never lost. And the universe is undefeated. It always gets you.
Yes.
It always comes to come home. So it's going to get you. It's coming. It's coming for you. There's nothing you can do about it. So if I just know these things, I don't know. I handle it better.
Yeah.
I handle it better. So when we rewind and we look at like all the way back to my students doing terrible a year ago at the World Championships, if I cannot blame them and say, wow, I better do something different. It's on me to fix this. It's on me to fix this. I need to give more because, okay, they're great. They're not Brosche. They don't have the athletic ability of Brosche. So they need more from their teacher. Okay, provide more. Who's coming along? Who's coming with me? Who's coming with me? Do you want to be, if you want this, let's go. And look, it wasn't just the one person that won this year. I think 13 medals with 15 competitors. So let's go. But that's work. That's work I had to do. That's work they had to do. They had to trust and believe. But if you turn it into, well, they fucked up and lost their first matches. Where can Eliot go from there? Right. What I have to find new students.
Finger pointing does not get us anywhere, right? It's the acknowledgement of the area of improvement, the things that we can do better, and all that starts with really looking holistically at the situation and seeing what we can change, how we can change it.
The problem is it does get you somewhere in the short run.
Yeah, absolutely. It gets
that's related to Jiu Jitsu.
Yeah.
A white belt bridging and pushing somebody off the mount. It works against other white belts. It works against some blue belts. It might even work with some purple belts. It works in the short run. Look, if you're big enough and strong enough, you'll be able to do it to me one time. You'll be able to do it to Gordon one time. What's his name did? Hugo. Victor Hugo did it to Gordon in ADCC.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And Gordon didn't finish him. Where was that match going to go if we played that out to the end?
Yeah.
How many more times is Victor Hugo going to be able to push Gordon off of him? Not very many.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Because you can only do it but so many times. So in a short run, in a small vacuum, and this is the problem as we look at things, our politics, our interactions with each other, we look at them in these very small little pockets. Like we hear on the news these days, somebody said something in this 20-second snippet, right? And then you take it and go, oh my God, look what this person said. and you go, oh, they're a terrible human being. And now look, some of them are, but I'm not defending Kanye here.
Thank
you. So, so yes, in the short run, finger pointing can work.
But
it does.
But is that really?
It gives you instant gratification.
But but the point is, does that really get us to the goal?
But
right?
that's not. But what's the goal? Are we trying to? That's the thing. What's the goal?
What? And that's the $1 million question that's being brought up every single day, at least every single episode on this podcast is like, I think we all hyper focus on these great things, but none of us or many of us don't establish these fundamental goals of where we want to go, how we want to achieve this, and what's the plan to execute.
So that's it. So man, you led right into like where I went with my life after some healing.
Yeah.
After some healing, I had to ask myself, what's the goal, Eliot? What's the goal?
What was it for you?
So for me, I had to first figure out who I was. What does it mean to be Eliot? And now I know who I am. I know exactly who I am. I'm a father. I'm a husband. I'm a student. I'm a teacher. I'm a student. I'm a fighter, and I'm a survivor. I am these 6 things, and I am these 6 things only. I am unconcerned about trying to be anything else. I have zero care. So first and foremost is father. My number one goal in this world is my boys still love me. They're not old enough to hate me yet, right? They're not like my 13-year-old just turned 13 a week ago.
He's on his way.
Okay? Yeah, he's on his way. I know I'm very close, right? I know this, but they still think of their dad as Superman.
Sure.
Right? And I'm freezing that thought of them in time. Okay. I'm trying to be the man that they think I am. Number one. So what does that look like? That means, how do I treat their mom? What does work look like? How do I treat other people? What do I give to the world? All of these things, because nobody can lie inside their house. You are who the people inside your house think you are. You can't lie because it's too raw. Right. So that's who I'm trying to be first and foremost. And I focus everything towards that. How I teach is focused towards that. How I be a student is focused towards that. Now, look, the last 2, fighter and survivor. Fighter very rarely needs to show up anymore. It's a very not needed identity, but he is always there.
Yeah.
He is always there. Sorry, what were you going to say?
Well, I was just going to say that's more of a young man identity, right? I think the older you get, those other things take place. They replace that.
Right.
Yeah.
But he'll be there if we have to. He'll be there.
Yeah, and there's different ways to look at that. I think the fighter identity, is it the bravado or is it the protector, right? And they're probably both there, but which one is the one that is more present?
Yeah.
So
the protector now, for sure.
Right.
And then survivor, man. There's only one thing that all of us have never felt out. Even if anyone listening to this is struggling and thinking about the worst thing possible. Suicide. The one thing I would like you to realize is the only thing that you are batting 1,000% that you've never missed, you've never failed, is getting through your worst day. So you're actually really good at it. You're actually really good at this. We all really are if you're alive still. So the only time that any one of those 6 identities will not be true, like when you say, is it true about Eliot or not true about Eliot, is when I die, and then whatever, I don't care.
So how did all of this, right? A lot of heavy stuff today, but how did all of it? No, you find. I mean, this is you. This is your story, right?
Yeah.
How did all of this impacted your academy and your students in a long run?
So the guys that were helping me were running 2 of the 2 schools that I owned at the time. I think maybe I owned 3. I don't know. And they weren't quite where I was successfully yet. My life after, okay, who's Eliot? It was, okay, I want their life to be as good as my life. How do you do that? Well, you got to have more money, right? If I want them to live as comfortably as I am, then we need to make more money, or I have to give it to them, give my money to them, right? As the owner.
Yep.
I did a little bit of that. I won't say I didn't do a little bit of that. I definitely did a little bit of that so that we could bump up a little bit, because you need money to, sustain a little life. So we did that. And then we just decided as a team to be like, what's really important. And for me, what was really important was so that people could and what was really important for all of us, Amal, Mike. So I don't want to say I did any of this alone now. Okay. None of this did I do alone. So let's just start there as far as the schools go. Okay. We have an amazing team. And it was like, okay, we want to create real careers for people in martial arts in our schools. Because most schools, how does it work? You have a kid, he comes in, he's good, he teaches for a while, and then he's got to grow up and give up on this dream that he loves martial arts and get a real big boy job, right? Because he's got to provide for his family and yada, yada. We didn't want to do that. We didn't want to do that. We want to create careers so that everyone can live in some way this life, this path and journey through martial arts, so that, because it has so impacted our lives and my life in particular, because I don't have anything in my life without it. I have my parents and that's it. I have my parents, my sister, I have one aunt and one uncle that's alive still, and that's it. I don't have anything else if it didn't come through jiu-jitsu or martial arts. Nothing.
So with that being said, what is this one most important part behind leading and being in this position that you find yourself in, with having, seven locations at this point, right?
Yeah.
And having, a large amount of employees, a large amount of people who are underneath you looking up to you.
Yeah.
And
first, you have to realize you can't do it by yourself.
Yeah.
So if you can't do it by yourself, you have to create a vision for other people to see. And that goes, they can go, okay, yeah, I can I'll go there too. Does that make sense what I'm saying by a vision?
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
It's got to include other people. It can't be, okay, I'm going to make $1 million, because then they're just working to make you $1 million. So that's not a vision. Okay. So you create a vision. Then you create values. You create what will we lose friends and money over? What are our core values? And then you create systems. How do we do it? This is how we do it. And then you just build the systems, and you learn how to communicate. And this is the biggest thing. You learn how to communicate.
That's the hardest part for a lot of people.
Yeah, we destroy communication.
We do.
But and we think that because I'm a black belt, that I have some superpower. And no, you have a superpower on the mat. And most likely, and now look, here's the downside of COVID and BJJ Fanatics and all of this, is everyone thinks they're fucking John Danaher now. Right? They watch his DVDs and and you think like John Danaher is an actual expert. He's an expert of experts. Most black belts, they're only experts, even at jiu-jitsu, in a small little area. They're really good at open guard. They're really, they're not Danaher, who can create this, like, oh my God, you watch his gi stuff, and his gi stuff is amazing, even though nobody watches it. So that's like, there's always, like I said, there's got to be balance to the force. So there's got to be a downside to BJJ Fanatics. And look, hold on. I love BJJ Fanatics.
There's a plug.
Let's qualify this.
Like, so that snippet that you guys can go,
no, all your
BJJ Fanatics is terrible.
Yeah. All your stuff just got canceled.
If this all falls apart and we end up being mad at each other, that'll be the soundbite.
So like, so we had to be like, okay, look, where is Eliot good? Eliot is not a good manager. I'm a fucking terrible manager. I'm terrible. Because I look at you and I go, I'm much better now, right? But in the beginning, I look at you and go, motherfucker, why didn't you make the phone calls? Get in the fucking office. Why didn't you make the phone calls? Go make the fucking, and that doesn't work.
No.
Yeah.
That doesn't work. That's not managing. The question is good. Hey, can you tell me why you didn't make the phone calls? And then actually wanting to listen and hear the answer of why they didn't make the phone calls. And then fixing that on a whole and setting up a system so that they really can't mess up making the phone calls. Right. Excuse me. And we also didn't have this path forward so that somebody could, when I was managing, so that somebody could see how they get from cleaner to front desk to assistant GM, or I'm sorry, to DH, which is our department heads, to an assistant GM, to a general manager, right? Like you didn't have this oh my God, look at how I can progress through this company. So yeah, that was all like learning experience, massive losses of money, and things like that. But first and foremost, you create values you create vision, you create values, you create systems. And when you create literally systems down to how you teach the class.
Yeah.
Because that way I don't have to teach the class all the time.
No, you can essentially create copies of yourself. Well, not even that, right? You follow the recipe. Yeah.
It's just a recipe. Now, look, you might, when you're not baking, I love to cook. So take baking out of this, but you have to be real precise with baking. But when you're cooking a brisket, some people cook it to 202 and some people say it's 203 that you have to cook this meat to. Look, that's everyone's own thing. So you can put your own little flair on it. I put a tablespoon of ground mustard and you put 3 tablespoons, and you think that so you have to be able to make your flair. But here's how we teach a class.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Here's how we teach a student and take them through a journey. One of the biggest mistakes that on the mat side that jiu-jitsu schools make is they let people train too soon. They let people free roll too soon.
Agreed.
And look, we really don't let retrain from the knees, like just shake hands and go. That really doesn't happen for us until where that happens in every class until the advanced class. In the intermediate level classes, we train, but we break it down positionally. A third of the class is live training, but it's live training from side control. It's live training from the mat. It's live or from the mount. It's live training from these positions because you're just not ready to comprehend you're not there.
Yeah.
I
can see when I'm talking to somebody in the office, I can see in their eyes when it's like that you need to get to a certain level before you could do that. And you could see it in their eyes. They're so disappointed. And it's like, how do I got to get them back now. Like, right. You're going to get there and you're going to be better when you do it than if you were to do it tomorrow. And you're going to enjoy it. You're not going to get hurt. You're not going to hurt anybody else. But yeah, I hate to take you off on a side tangent there, but
it's a great place to go.
Yeah. I see it and it's like, okay, now I got to reel this person back to let them know that they're still going to be successful. They're still going to have fun. They're still going to get a workout, but let that time come when you're ready.
But that's on us now.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's on us as the teacher to create a class that's fun.
Yeah.
Sure.
A class where they get a workout and it almost feels like training. Now, and I stole this from pro sports. Are you guys pro sports fans, football by chance?
A little bit.
Okay. A football team. When do they play football? Actually play football. Pad up, snap the ball and go.
Sunday.
Well,
only Sunday.
Yeah.
Yep.
Only Sunday. Other than that, they run the drill. They run the play again. They drill.
Right.
So how do we drill in jiu-jitsu? We create flows. Mm-hmm. You create flows for a very first day student. So in the beginning of class, we go feet to floor every day. Every day is feet to floor. First day student doesn't fucking matter. There's very little resistance for that first day student, and there's very little A, B, like option A, option B. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Right?
It's interesting because Gary and I, we were looking at each other because it's very similar factors taking place here in my academy, like strong believer in the same mentality. But let me ask you this flat out. Mm-hmm. Why so many academies don't do that?
It's harder.
Well, but isn't that the definition of the success? Isn't that the path to the success?
How did you learn, Thomas? You didn't learn like this.
My own mistakes. I mean, listening to smart people. That's how I
we
learned.
didn't learn like this.
No.
We learned, and look, taking nothing away from my teacher, Amal, because like, it's how he learned, right? You come in, the teacher shows a move and then goes and sits on the wall. And this is how I used to teach, right? And, talks to the people sitting there and, fixes it a little bit and, right? And then he shows another move and then you train, right? And then tomorrow you do a different thing and then you train. You get what's called casca grossa, right? In Portuguese, thick skinned. You get fucking tough.
I remember my first class. I got demolished.
Yeah. So like, okay, but what's actually best for a student? It takes way fucking longer. They're not tough fast.
But again, why Jiu Jitsu Academy don't do this? Like, I have a hard time comprehending this all throughout because, listen, we all want to be successful. You look at any Jiu Jitsu Academy, I'm not going to find one business owner, one Jiu Jitsu Academy owner who says, I don't want to have a good Jiu Jitsu Academy with making money, good students, winning competitions, whatever the goals are. I don't want to succeed. Like, nobody's going to say this. No, everybody wants to succeed. But rarely anybody wants to listen to advice like this.
Because you're a so-called expert.
True. Right there.
You're a black belt. And if you're a black belt, you know how to do this. You know how to,
Yeah, I think that's definitely one of the reasons. I think the other reason is it's still such a young sport, young art, where it's you're still holding on. People are still holding on to the old ways. I didn't learn that way. Look, take it into anything, right? How you raise your family. My parents were tougher on me than I ever will be on my kids. And I'm sure it was way tougher for my parents, but you got to weed out some of that stuff that doesn't set them up for success in that toughness, quote unquote. You know what I mean? And I think that maybe jiu-jitsu is still it is still in its infancy, even though it's exploded in the past 5 years.
But the ego's still so attached to being a black belt.
Yeah, absolutely. Being any belt.
The ego's
like
so
that,
attached to when you're an expert.
Yeah. And those sink or swim schools where it's like, you can't hang, you're a blue belt and you go roll somebody out someplace else and they demolish you. It's like, what are they teaching you over there? Well, let's talk to each other in 5 years and see who's happier, who's better, who's got more technique.
Who's what? Look, BJJ, and so now here, use this clip. BJJ Fanatics is the best thing that's ever happened for jiu-jitsu.
There you go. Yeah. I'm going to take both. I got one for each occasion.
Because the real experts of experts. Now, look, I'll call myself an expert, but I'm not an expert of experts. They are putting their information out now, and good for them that they're getting paid, right? So why not pay attention to what they're doing?
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Why not pay attention? I don't care if you don't like Gordon and John. I don't care if you don't like the Mendez brothers, right? Personally, okay? Why not take what they do best? I don't listen to Gordon and Ryan a little rat's ass about his politics. He can go he can go fuck a fish for all I care.
That's the clip. That's the clip.
I don't care. I really don't care. Right. But obviously those two guys are doing something better than the rest of us. Mm-hmm. And obviously in the gi, the Mendez brothers are doing something better than the rest of us. Mm-hmm. And now they're putting it out on the internet. Mm-hmm. Let's go, baby.
Yeah, go get it.
And you know what's the best part behind all of this, in my opinion, is the fact that 20 years ago, none of that existed. 20 years ago, if you ask your own instructors for a specific question, he probably didn't give you an answer.
No.
Because we were so hyper-focused on not sharing things. Today, everything is accessible on a damn phone. You can get it.
BJJ Fanatics, the internet changed the world.
Absolutely.
So let's go. Let's go. You can find, look, everything. So we have a business. It's called Easton Online. If you want help with your academy, come sign up. right? It's very intensive. You get everything that Easton does. You get every single thing that Easton does. How we run our schools from top to bottom. We bring in $7 million a year in revenue. That's a lot of, we're probably the most successful single owner, right? It's just me and Amal as the owners, school in the country as far as this stuff goes. Look, Gracie Barra is a franchise is what I'm saying, right. So they definitely bring in more revenue, but there's a lot of owners of, it's a different model. So 7 million is a lot for a martial arts school. Now, it's all on the internet. You can find it everywhere for free. I promise you. There isn't shit that we have put together and organized that you can't find for free, but we have it packaged really nice in one spot. Mm-hmm. That's what BJJ Fanatics did.
And that's what you're paying.
It's packaged real nice in one spot. I don't have to search the internet for hours and hours and hours and figure, right? All right, you know what I'm going to do? I want to get good at leg locks. Where's John's DVD? Where's Gordon's? Okay, great. I'll watch these. Got it. Thank you.
Yep.
That's all it is.
And that's what
There's nothing you can't find for free. You
Absolutely.
can find all of this for free.
YouTube is a beautiful tool, right?
YouTube's a beautiful tool. You can build a house for free.
Yep.
Look, you can build a house on YouTube. They will show you how to go top to bottom, build a house. Gary, if you want to build another house, you're going to follow YouTube, or you're going to find a builder?
Yeah, I'm going to find a builder for sure, because there won't be 2 straight nails.
There's more than one reason why Gary's not building a house.
When I said who I was, did it say construction worker?
No.
And there ain't nothing against construction workers. I just want to get so good at jiu-jitsu and teaching that I'll have enough money to then go pay the construction worker good money so he can make a living to build my house. That's how I see the world.
I love it. I normally have 50 billion questions, but I like you nailing spot left and right and really opening the mind, and your story is so amazing that, I before we wrap this up, what we do every episode, our previous guest asked a question and he had no idea you're going to be on. We kind of gave him hands, but obviously he had no clue it's going to be you. Okay. He asked the question. Gary's going to ask you the question. Let's see where this is going to go right before we wrap this up.
Yeah, and it's kind of cool that we're talking about YouTube and learning everything online, because his question was, how will AI affect teaching jiu-jitsu in the future and how we will learn it? So artificial intelligence, where does it take in jiu-jitsu?
I don't delve far into this topic of AI. I do believe that as long as humans are around, we need human-to-human contact. We need each other, and AI won't get it done for us. It will get some things done for us, and maybe the AI will then take over and we'll all be gone and something else will come. When we back that up a little bit, like YouTube, you need a teacher. You have, if you want to learn off the internet, you have to be an expert. Like you and I, we're black belts, right? We can go watch John Danaher and learn. Most students can't.
Correct.
They can see it, and then they need a teacher, because what you're not getting out of the Danaher DVDs or any DVD is the fundamentals. Okay. How to stay safe, these little moves, right, of things. You can't get that from YouTube. It's impossible. You need a teacher watching you do it and seeing the mistake that you're actually making.
Yep.
Okay. Because we never feel like we are making that mistake necessarily. But your teacher, because your teacher could video it and go see, like, the video never lies. Right. So I will say we need a teacher still, no matter where this goes.
Let me rephrase that question a little bit. If you look at historically at jiu-jitsu evolution points, YouTube might be found as one. BJJ Fanatics, might be another pivot point. What do you think is next? What do you think will change the way how we teach jiu-jitsu after BJJ Fanatics era?
God, I wish I knew. I'd be rich as fuck. it will be some form of AI. You know, it will be very interesting if we could do the Matrix, right? If we could like somehow plug in and learn. That would be a very interesting thing to see.
Yeah, for sure.
That's cheating.
That's cheating. Hey, listen, it is what it is.
Before
Elliot,
we wrap, can I say one thing?
Of
real
course.
quick?
please,
Yes.
please.
You guys have asked me all of these questions, and like I think we've had a really great conversation, and I gave answers. I don't ever, to anyone ever listening, want to come off like I'm right. This is just how I've done it for me, and this is how I continue to fuck up. Like I still suffer with anxiety sometimes. You know, I'm in a little bit of it right now, which is I just have learned how to deal with it. Okay, I still. I said I'm a father, and you know I point my life towards being a great dad. I mess that up all the time. There's never a time when I'm not messing up. Okay, I blow it. I blow it with my wife. I blow it with my students. I have these two athletes that I'm very close with. One was a very young child, not very young. She's 15. When I got in, I didn't blow it in the worst way, like not like that, but like I never had a female student before. I never had an adolescent female student before her. So, you know, you can deal with boys differently than you can deal with females. You can say different things, act different ways. Man, I blew that so bad, you know, like, which wasn't what she needed at the time. So I have blown everything and continue to blow everything. So I'm the farthest thing from perfect. I am not trying to be, so I don't want it to ever seem as though I'm coming across like, yeah, just do this and everything will be fine.
Well, we appreciate the honesty. We appreciate the raw story that you have shared with us, and you know, I do think that none of us are perfect. I do think that all of us, you know, need improvement, continuous improvement. I think the trick is really to acknowledge that in order for us to fix something, we have to acknowledge that it's broken. And without that first step, it's very difficult to make a change. And many out there struggle with it. So I'm hoping that your story, you know, will open the eyes and it will give them the opportunity to really continue improving, especially on, but also off the mat. You know, life is short. You know, life is short and we don't have a lot of time. And as you said it yourself, time does run out. We do expire. So let's make the best out of it. And if it so happens we can use jiu-jitsu while we're doing it, life is beautiful.
And
listen,
look, on the mats doesn't really matter. It really doesn't.
End of the day.
We're jiu-jitsu nerds, right?
Yeah.
All of us?
Yeah.
Who is the 2019 middle heavyweight world champion?
I don't know. I don't care.
Exactly.
Honestly.
You don't know. But we love jiu-jitsu.
Right.
Yeah.
So if being the best on the mat is really that fucking important, then we would know that.
Yeah. Well,
nobody knows who what's his name? Margarita is. Nobody knows who he is now. Why?
And you know,
listen,
and here's the other thing.
I got
too.
better one. I got better one. I mean, I think 95% people coming through academies doors, they don't know what jiu-jitsu is.
Yeah.
Right.
They stumble upon it. They kind of had an idea, but it's really not that deep.
Right.
Like,
and the people that are finally knowing who like the best in the world is, well, guess what? There's somebody that's going to argue that you're wrong, and there's somebody else who's better. They have a different opinion of who's better.
Hajer's beloved.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right? Hajer's beloved, and he's not beloved just for his on the mat presence.
Yeah.
Right.
That's true.
It's for how he is off the mat.
True.
Henzo's beloved.
Yep.
Right? Henzo's beloved in the community, other than the fucking woke ass dumbasses on the internet.
There's always those, right?
Yeah, but why? It's because when you're around Renzo Gracie, he treats you like you are Renzo Gracie, like you're the man. He gets mad at me if I come to New York and I don't text him first. I'm like, Renzo, you're so busy. Why I don't want to do that to you. He's like, motherfucker, I'll be, I'm like, okay, and whether he means it, but whether he means it or not, he sure does make me feel like he means it. That's what it is. So it can't be this on the mat thing. Yeah, they're great on the mat too, but that's what it is.
Great.
True martial
Beautiful.
artists, right there.
Yeah.
True martial artists. Elliot, before we wrap this up, where can people find you? How can people connect with you? You know, your academies, you have your online business, you know, all extremely successful, but let's create the exposure here at the end.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Look, the best place for me is at FireMarshall205 on Instagram. So I try to answer every single one on Instagram. The online thing where we're helping people, it's called Easton Online. That has an Instagram, but I would still say the best way to get the best way is me. Right. So contact me if you are looking for help with your school at FireMarshall205. If you are into this personal development world, or I run these Jiu Jitsu retreats. I'm actually going to Maui on Sunday to do one. So if you are interested in any of that, I have a website, EliotMarshall.com. And yeah, that's it. Shoot me a message. Fill out the contact form. If any of you are running companies and things like that, I'm getting into this public speaking world. And if you would like me to come speak, that's EliotMarshall.com. So yeah, FireMarshall205, EliotMarshall.com. It's all there.
We'll include the links in the show notes as we always do. So if you guys have the desire to connect directly with the man himself, please feel free to check it out. And let's wrap this up for today, Gary.
Yeah, just you know, we never know where these are going to go. This could have been a all business episode, and I just want to say thank you, Thomas already said, for your honesty. I want to thank you for your humbleness and for putting your story out there, your personal story, because I think that helps people. It helps on an individual level, and I think that's what we need more of. So thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Gary. I appreciate it. It's the only way we're going to get better.
Thank you. All right, are we done? All right, man.
Let's wrap this up.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to RŌL Radio. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to leave us a review and help us make the show even more amazing. For future episodes, check out our website and follow us on all major podcast platforms. Take care.